to be here with you today. We are honored to partner with State Representative Bud L. Williams on this important legislative briefing. On your way in, you may have noticed the flags. We are excited to present to you for the first time the missing Black, Indigenous, and Peoples of Color flag. The green lighthouse represents our growing hope across this land. The red rays represents our urgent call to action, and the 3 yellow stars represent the peace and harmony between Black, Indigenous, and all people of color, and the diversity that we share. This flag also pays homage to Boston, home of Knights for the Missing, and home of the first lighthouse in today's United States, built in 1716 on Little Brewster Island in the Boston Harbor called Boston Light. The poetry reading I'm going to do this morning was written based on this flag. I titled it Ray of Light. Lost at sea and unable to navigate their way, a faint glimmer of hope shone in the distance. Bobbing in the ocean, their weary eyes detect what appears to be a lonely firefly dancing in the darkness of the night. Prevailing through the obscurity, the choreographed dance becomes a navigational tool. As they near, the light becomes brighter, illuminating the profound onyx sky. The glowing ray is a beacon of promise. No longer alone, a lighthouse erects. A sense of relief poured over them, for the structure was a symbol of hope, a representation of protection, reassurance, and security, evoking lost travelers back to shore. Eliciting the vanished, misled, and misinformed, the illumination emitted from the lighthouse sheds light on those lost at sea, our missing. The hope of being found, being missed, the sense of belonging to someone, to something, is now realized, for I am my brother's and my sister's keeper. We are the lighthouses. We are those amplifying our voices for the missing. We are the good shepherds with a herd of 99 searching for the one. E pluribus unu. Out of many, one. One nation, one country, one people, one body. We make up a whole with our many. Working together as one, utilizing the labor, efforts, and dreams of many, the motto ingrained in our culture, epitomizes our need and value for each other. United we stand, united we must search. With our brotherly and sisterly love comes our strength. With our interdependence comes our collaboration. With our unity comes mobility. We must fight for the most vulnerable. We must scream for the unheard. We must remain persistent for those who are lost. For we are the lighthouses that shed light on our missing.
Thank you, very powerful. See Rep. Duffy from Holyoke. Holyoke and Onuoha. Thank you. Now we are getting ready for publication. So listen to this amazing panel. And Crystal Haynes, the Emmy Award-winning journalist, Boston 25 News weekend morning anchor and reporter. Now, Crystal, I've done many of these forms with her. She always gets back. It's maternal health, sickle cell, this is Black women. She's on the case. She's not paid to do this. She does it. And it really, she tells her story. Tells her story. I want to get home in the right way. So I want to just, you always give to us. We really, really appreciate you. Springfield. Give Crystal, please. Not she's busy, she's a family, all of that. But still always finds time to do what? To give back. Thank you, Crystal. This amazing panel. I got Mo, I'm not going to pronounce that name, Mo. Thank you, Mo. Your dad's here. Worked with him on yesterday. My friend Diane Robertson from Springfield. And also Marie Robertson, the state police individual, and also the research and activist in Algeria. So the panel is yours. I think I'm supposed to bring this to you. Right here. I guess that.
This is my okay. That's it.
I don't have a clear bracket. Oh, that's yours?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. Good morning. I'm Crystal Haynes. I am no longer with Boston 25, but I am the host of Greater Boston and Basic Black on GBH2. I'm very excited to be so. I'm also the Senior Communications Director at the United Way of Mass Bay. And on the board of the March of Dimes, which I think is super important as we talk about the intersection. Red Williams talked about this, the intersection of Black maternal health, children, missing women, and Black women. So I'm very excited to host this panel and be of service. My nanny, 413 represent, my nanny used to say, you do better if you know better. Right? And Black women of color deserve better from all of us, especially in this particular case. And, I'm reminded of the segment we did on Greater Boston where we talked about the Columbian journalism report and said how much coverage are you worth? And if you plug in your data and you are a white woman in a certain demographic and look a certain way in terms of our standards of beauty, you get a lot of news coverage for a long time. And we've seen that happen over the last several years. But if you are a woman of color, you got next to no stories and for a very brief time. And that's not okay. So let's raise our voices as Mics for the Missing is doing already to do better by women and girls of color. I'm also struck by one of the young ladies said that our future is in your hands. We are vulnerable. And I think that if you take nothing away from this conversation, you take those words away, because it is our responsibility to do. So I want to start, that's a little bit of my introduction. I want each one of the panelists to give us a little bit more about their background, to sort of level set the conversation.
Good day, everyone. Thank you for coming, everybody. My name is Mayowa Osinubi. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Mics for the Missing. You heard from my co-founder, COO, Mary-Alexandra. How do y'all like that poem? Right? So we are an organization that's been advocating for missing Black, Indigenous people of color, and we started in this work actually through Tufts University. So me and Mary-Alexandra, we were in an interdisciplinary program of diversity, equity, inclusion, leadership at Tufts University, getting our master's. And I took a lot of classes at Fletcher School, and one of the classes I took was gender theory, and I covered femicide. So as I was doing all the research, I was just shocked and alarmed. So I did my final project called Mics for the Missing. My professor was like, you need to actually start Mics for the Missing. And here we are today at the State House. So it's been a great journey, and it's collaborative work. We work with so many amazing volunteers that are here today. You met some of them in the front, and we're gonna continue this work for missing.
My name is Alexandria Onuoha, and I'm a Ph.D. candidate at Suffolk University in the Applied Developmental Psychology program. So my research is focused on youth development, and specifically Black girl positive development. But before that, I was a student at Prospect Hill Academy, and shout out to my PHA, Best at Soccer Girls. I run a girls program. And I was really active in a lot of nonprofit work. So for example, Transition House, which is a nonprofit organization that does work around domestic violence and healthy relationships and consent. And then when I went to college, I was still interested in that work, but I was also interested in the intersections between race, gender, youth development, specifically Black girlhood studies. And then now at Suffolk, I'm doing this research, but also I'm the former director of political advocacy at Black Boston. And in that work, we decided to highlight the issue of missing Black women and girls and how that is inextricably linked to human trafficking, right? So there's no guessing, like these things are extremely linked. And we decided to do a Boost Black Girls campaign to really highlight the need for organizations and government spaces to not work in isolation, but to work together. Because when we think about the development of Black girls and women, this is a multi-level issue. So we can't think of it as a one issue. So generally this issue is pointing at a larger issue, which is the devaluation, the dehumanization of Black women and girls. So my research and my community activism are integrated, but it's really because I love Black girls and I want them to feel joy and I want them to have that psychological safety.
Good morning. My name's Anne-Marie Robertson. I'm a detective lieutenant with the State Police, Massachusetts State Police, and I am the unit commander of the Unresolved Cases Unit. We work on unsolved homicides, sexual assaults, missing persons cases, and unidentified remains. I've been with the State Police for 25 years. I worked 15 years in homicides and now have the opportunity to start this new unit, which is amazing that these cases get a new, fresh look. Unfortunately, I have several family members that I speak to often with missing persons in Massachusetts, and I believe the hardest part is not knowing. So every day in the news, when you hear remains being found, family members call us, hoping that their loved ones, so that they know where they are. This is an important discussion, and I'm very glad to be part of it, and I'm glad something about missing persons is coming up. So thank you very much.
My first question to all of you, we'll sort of go down the line here, is why or how do you think legislation specifically is a critical step forward in this particular space? What parts of this bill do you find most vital to combating missing Black women and children?
Thank you for that question, Crystal. So when we think about missing Black women and girls in our Commonwealth, we have to critically actually look at missing Black women and girls, the alarming statistics across this country. Black women and girls make up just 7% of the US population, yet are 40% of all missing women and girls in this country. They are more likely to get murdered, killed than any other ethnicity and race. So when we see these alarming statistics, it underscores the need for targeted action like legislation, like this bill authored by Representative Bud L. Williams. And what it really does is it sends a message that the lives of Black women and girls matter, and when they go disappearing, it won't go unnoticed and unchecked and unaddressed. And what it also does is it creates statewide measures that are needed. And what I'm really excited about when it comes to this bill is it's going to improve the coordination between law enforcement and the community and community organizations and the public at large, and also the media, which is really needed. So I'm most excited about the Ebony Alert piece of this bill. As someone who is every day, me and Mary-Alexandra were on the internet, we're posting missing people flyers from across the Commonwealth, across this country. And so to be able to have better communication channels that are targeted between the law enforcement and the public, this can aid in just faster dissemination of information that can really improve the search and recovery of our missing women and girls.
I want to extend what Bo was saying. So one of the things that I think about, especially with this bill, is the Combahee River Collective was a feminist organization that was active in Boston, I believe 1974 to 1980. And one of the things that they believed in was addressing the issues that were pertaining and reflective of the experiences of Black women and girls. But because Black women and girls are at the margins, are most vulnerable, that allows us to have an expansive liberation for everyone else. So I think this legislation is a critical step forward because it's naming Black women and girls. And I think oftentimes we get the question of like, why Black women and girls? And I think a lot of our response is why not? And also, it has been shown that when resources are allocated to Black women and girls, it helps everybody. Everybody wins. So I think this legislation is a critical step forward. And I also love the Ebony Alert. And I think the other thing that I appreciate about this bill is that it's also addressing the intersections of human trafficking and domestic violence, right? So again, it's not like this issue, again, is a multi-level issue. And what this bill is trying to do is, you know, let's also address the other things that are compounded with this, which it gets messy and difficult, but it's so necessary. So I think the Ebony Alert, and I think the intersection between domestic violence and human trafficking. And then the last thing I'll say is data. So as a data nerd, I think numerical representations are important. And in my experience, when I've spoken with elected officials, I often get the question of, well, do you have numbers? And I'm like, I kind of don't, right? I don't have numbers because we're not necessarily collecting data. But data allows us to locate things. It allows us to have measures, and it allows us to have better policy implications, therefore better implementation. So those are some of the things that I really respect about the bill.
Just being with Massachusetts State Police, I can't make any comments on pending legislation, so I will answer the other one.
Keep the mic.
Okay.
I was gonna just say one more thing, because for researcher data, you know, it's like food to a chef, right? But for community organizers and community organizations like Mike's for the Missing, the data piece is also really important because what it does is it allows us to get valuable insights so we can develop more targeted interventions. So what we really want with the data is to be able to think about better ways. First of all, it raises the collective intelligence around this issue, so we do so much awareness work, but then we're able to come together as a researcher and a community organizer and think of better ways to address this growing crisis.
Yeah, and Anne Marie, I do have a question you can answer, which has to do with what are the protocols, what's the process? The real process, not what we see online, right? For finding missing people, and what are some of the challenges that law enforcement face when they're going about that work?
Okay, I'm going to answer that question, but I'm going to get back to data, because that's very important. So I'm glad you guys both brought that up. Okay, the most important thing, obviously, when your loved one is missing, you want to report them to the local police department of where they went missing or where they might have last been seen. Depending on the circumstances, there's evidence of abduction and there's enough descriptive information and your loved one is under the age of 17, there'll be an Amber Alert issue. The local police department then starts their investigation. As the Colonel said earlier, Massachusetts State Police gets involved when they're needed and can help with the assistance of searching with our fusion center, any phones, cell phones, or any kind of information at all. And also the missing person is entered into NCIC, that's the FBI's national database. So the challenges are, a lot of times, the missing person is not reported missing for months. It's important for you to report your loved ones. The quicker, the sooner hours and days will be very important to be able to search the area. But we totally understand. It's family strains, it could be drug, alcohol abuse, mental health issues. But that doesn't matter. No one should feel, because of those issues, that they're not going to report their loved ones. We're going to look for them no matter what. And that sometimes can be a challenge because people feel that they don't want to come in to report because their loved ones have some issues. But there are no issues at all with that. And we are going to continue to look for your loved ones. I understand that a larger population, because of the population, a lot of people go unnoticed missing. And if you, you don't even have to be a relative, you can come in and report someone missing, and that's what we encourage everyone to do. The other thing I wanted to talk about, obviously recent months we've been having media coverage, and I think we talked about this. No matter what the media coverage is of a missing person, it's good to get it out there and for the media to help. And the number one question is how many people are missing in Massachusetts? So that's what I want to talk to you about data. As the Colonel had mentioned earlier, 1,750 people are reported missing in the national database. Unfortunately, with that database, when you go to search it, you're searching by name. So you need to have the correct spelling of someone's name and have the correct information. So how can we help with finding missing persons? And that is like I want to speak about NAMUS. That's the National Missing and Unidentified Persons System database. And this is where I think the data helps. And in Massachusetts, we're trying to get this, we're encouraging local departments to enter the missing person because it is a online collaboration and it's to help law enforcement, but families are missing. So then they need search and medical families. So if we could search today, we could say Black female ages of 17 to 25, how many of them are missing in Massachusetts? And that's important. And it's important to finding your loved ones. We also have been doing trainings like the Colonel had said, and with EOPS and the Municipal Police Training Committee in NAMUS. We have done an online service training with 900 police officers, local police officers, on how to enter cases into NAMUS and to go over protocols. And since we did the 5 trainings, we had 159 people entered. We now have 199 people reported missing in there, and we can search them at any time. So if we can get every police department to put those 1,750 people into our NAMUS database, I think it will help, and it'll help us with the data and to be able to run any kind of data to see who's missing. Law enforcement, we're dedicated to finding missing persons. It doesn't matter how long someone's been missing or how long it took a family member to report them missing. We know that the hardest part is not knowing. And then we hope that they'll be reunited with their family someday. And unfortunately, sometimes Massachusetts State Police get involved when they're unidentified remains. And still, those remains deserve to go home with their family. And that's what we want to do.
So this next question is for Alexandria. What are some of the systemic and social issues that contribute to the high rates of disappearance among Black women?
I could give a whole lecture.
Oh, I'm sure.
I'm not going to. I think the first thing that's important when thinking about this issue and how to address it is the hypersexualization of Black women and girls and adultification. So I think media has a lot to do with how Black women and girls are portrayed in society as hypersexual. And in terms of adultification bias, it's this idea that Black girls are seen as more independent, more adult, more mature, and at first glance, it's like, oh, these are positive attributes, right? Like someone that's independent. But when we get into the case of missing Black women and girls, those attributes kind of remove the responsibility of protection, and that's where we kind of fall short. The other thing too, I was reflecting on the 2 middle school students that were up here. I also think educational spaces are extremely important in development and socialization. So I think that one of the issues is that Black girls are 3 to 4 times more likely to be expelled compared to their other counterparts, so other racial groups. So when Black girls are pushed out of schools, unfortunately, they're more susceptible to high-risk behavior. So, and they're more likely to be targeted. So those are some of the issues that I think we need to address, and I'll kind of leave it there.
Mo, you talked a little bit about Mics for the Missing, It's Found, what it does. Talk to me about how your organization, we know, plays a critical role in raising awareness around cultural engagement. How do you think this bill will actually help in your work in terms of heightened public engagement and support, from the state?
Yes. Thank you for that question, Crystal. So Mics for the Missing, we're a Massachusetts-based organization, and we advocate for missing Black women and girls, and we do that through amplifying their visibility and voices. We also advocate for change, and we advance prevention through utilizing the arts, media, and education. And we do that through a diversity, equity, and inclusion lens. And we also do that through a lot of collaboration and partnership like today. And our partnership spans across the Northeast and the East Coast. So as you all know, we're trying to create this prevention network because someone can go missing in our Commonwealth and they can be in New York or the tri-state area or even the DMV area in just a few hours. So a lot of our work is education and supporting survivors and supporting families, and it's raising the awareness and community action. So we go into communities, we do a lot of community activations from we've done panels, we have a mixer next month at Frugal Bookstore on June 7th. I'm just gonna do that plug. 5:30 to 8:30, please join us. And when we do these community activations, people are so shocked when we tell them about this crisis. And we want to take that shock, we want to take that disbelief and turn it into actionable power. And so we want people to feel like they can take actionable power steps to make a difference. And one of those steps is supporting this bill. So when we are in the community, when we're talking to folks, we're going to continue to educate folks on this crisis, but we're also going to give them that power in how they can take agency when it comes to this crisis. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to educate the public on the benefits of this bill, and we're going to continue this work together.
All right, well, I think it's important, especially being thoughtful of time. We open it up for the Q&A at this point. Does anyone have any questions for our panelists? Sure.
This question is for Detective Robertson. So you mentioned that if a person is under the age of 17 that qualifies for an Amber Alert, is there any other criteria that is required for an Amber Alert to go out? Because I haven't had any Amber Alerts on my phone in years, so just wondering.
So we just had one. I know the Colonel had spoken, the one out in Chicopee, unfortunately, where an individual mother had left her child in the car running, and someone had stolen the car. So Amber Alert is only for where there is a physical abduction, that we know that the person's been abducted and that there's information that we can put out there. Unfortunately, parental kidnapping, you're not going to see those over there. Unfortunately, those happen too much in this state also. But with the Amber Alert, so that's what's good about this discussion, is having protocols. So that there are protocols on the Amber Alert. They have to be under 17 years old. There has to be a potential abduction, and there has to be enough description to say this person was taken in this individual car. If we were to put out alerts, unfortunately, every day we'd be putting out alerts, unfortunately, without missing people. But that is the purpose of Amber Alert, and with protocols in place, I think is going to help this in talking about this discussion is helping.
Other questions?
What can we do to amplify your message? I'm thinking I represent 5 towns. Could I send this recording? Could I, or do you mentioned you're going to a bookstore? Are you interacting maybe like with the Mass Association of Police Chiefs? We had an Essex County Police Chiefs event. Just wondering how can we connect those? I will ask them. Okay, just answer my question. So yes, please connect us. One of our goals for this year is to really to raise our community impact and community partnerships. But one of the things that we tell people that they can do is they can make simple actions by following us on Instagram, follow NECMA. Their simple handle is Missing Kids. Follow Black and Missing Foundation. They are actively doing the work on the ground. They are finding our missing. And so when you follow these organizations and you reshare these posters, what you're doing is you're changing public perception. You are becoming a platform for it as an advocate. And so that's what we want folks to do, just on a simple level. But also, yes, we are open to collaborations and partnerships. We post every day about missing folks across this nation, and especially in our Commonwealth and New England. So that's just a simple way that you can start, and also to educate yourself. And we have a lot of education materials. We provide a lot of resources, because once you know better, like you said, like your grandmother said, we all can do better, and then we can all just have a safer future and community. Yes.
Yeah, I really love that, Mo. And I think one of the amazing things about Mics for the Missing too is there are initiatives as well. So when we, like the question about like how can we support, like whatever your niche is, like you can plug into that, right? So if you're an artist, you can connect with Mics for the Missing or do your own, art installation or whatever around this issue. So I think that's important to say that if you're not good at public speaking, if you don't feel comfortable, but you have other talents, like this is an issue that everybody can participate in. And I also think I want to mention Black Girl Joy as well. Like a lot of these conversations, it's really heavy and intense, but I also think that anybody that's in here that is passionate about the development of Black women and girls, anywhere you are, create joy spaces, create safety, create protection, whatever that looks like for you.
Can I do a quick...
I just want to add to that. We hope to plan a missing persons event in Massachusetts that other states have had, and there are a lot of people out there that have not been reported missing. Because someone might not feel comfortable going into a law enforcement department based on, could be their immigration status, they could have warrants, they might just have a distrust in police. We would like to have, in the future, and maybe obviously we'd like to have anybody from the community to be there to help out, to have people come forward and report their loved one missing, have it in a non-law enforcement, a college, a high school, and to have people there to be able to take a report, and no matter what your loved one's issues are, that they can report them missing, we can get them into a database, we can get that information out via media, social media, anything, and just get the word out. And I think that's really important because there are much more people missing in Massachusetts and they're not being reported. So hopefully we can all work together for that.
Yes, after that. I actually wanted to do a quick plug because we do a lot of community activations like next month, but we also we're really involved in the arts. And so we have a producer here, a very awesome producer in the front row who has already started this work. We're going to do a Mics for the Missing mixtape. He's already worked with a class at Brandeis University who have come up with songs that are PSAs and they're raising awareness on this issue. So we'll continue this work, and just follow us, micsforthemissing.com, or on social media, because we're doing all this work across the arts and across different institutions. So thank you.
Any last questions?
First, I want to say thank you so much for being here. My question is around what factors contribute to someone being classified as a minority, because I think a lot of young women, Black women, and girls do disappear and are classified as runaways, and I believe that impacts what level of search is conducted. So what are ways that maybe as a community, we could be more thoughtful maybe in how we classify missing people, so that there are the same level of resources provided to find people in our community?
Thank you so much for that question. And I actually want to bring up what Lieutenant said about protocol. I think this like kind of fits that discussion where maybe we need to start asking questions about, is there a history of domestic violence, or like, is there a history of human trafficking, so that we can paint a better picture of what's going on. Also to answer like that initial question of like, what are some of the social factors that contribute to Black girls being classified as runaways? I think there's a complex answer, but I think what I'll say about that is that Black girls, again, in thinking about hypersexualization and adultification bias, when that is ingrained, unfortunately, in our law enforcement, it makes it a bit more complicated, right? So when they're being classified as runaways, again, it's removing the responsibility of actually searching for them. So it's kind of like, yeah, they're running away, whatever. And that goes back to this idea of Black girls being independent, being mature. And again, at first glance, it sounds positive, but it actually, no, they are children. They should be protected. They are vulnerable. So I think that hopefully that answers your question a little bit. We could talk after, it's much more complicated for sure, but I think that's one way. But I really do want to hone in on what Lieutenant said about the protocol and us actually having questions and actually working with other organizations.
I mean, even if they're a runaway, the most important part, report them missing. And to get as much information out, like we were talking about, of their background or anything. Every case is taken serious, and the more information we can get out there that, you know, and getting the information out to the public. The public are the ones that are gonna help us find missing people. If they are a runaway and they're out on the streets, the public are gonna be the ones that see them, and hopefully they'll be able to help. And we need to get the information to the police about any kind of concerns, like we said, involving domestic violence or any other factors, and that's important. And they are still, and get them in the database. That's really, to me, very important also.
Thank you, Lieutenant. One of the things that we've noticed, even on social media, is when we do post people missing, folks are like, yeah, they ran away, so why should we look for them? And so running away is the act of the child. It does not say that this case is not serious. So that is why we're doing a lot of reshaping of perceptions around this. And so as advocates, we're all here, you all are here, you are all advocates, we can reshape what that term runaway means. Runaway is just the act of the child. It does not mean they're not safe. Every child that goes missing is in danger. And so that is kind of our public awareness piece to really push that message around our runaways.
Well, I'm being told that that is our time in this space, but certainly not the time in the conversation. So continue the conversation, engage with our panelists here, and let's as I said in the beginning, let's do better for Black women. So thank you, Professor.